This whole thing is making me so anxious that even Evie came to give some emotional support. Welcome to Arcadia, everyone. Recent information leaks suggest that Wizards of the Coast is attempting to revoke the OGL 1.0a and enforce a much more tyrannical license. And I think they will succeed. Most of this is old news, but there's a lot of people coming to this channel through my D&D tutorial videos, and those might not be aware of what's happening. As I said in my video about the 1D&D surveys, a lot of players are not even aware that 1D&D is a thing. It's in everyone's best interest to spread this awareness, so let me give some context. There will be timestamps down below in the Underdark if you want to jump the introduction part, and also links to the Alexandrian, who has a really great overview of the history of the OGL, Indestructoboy's channel where he pretty much called all of this, to the article by Linda Codega at Gizmodo where I got most of the leaked information from, and to a post by MyLawyerFriend with relevant legal information. The Open Game License, or OGL, is a game license issued by Wizards of the Coast 2 decades ago that gives people the right to make D&D compatible material such as custom classes, homebrew ancestries, original adventures, and a lot more, as long as they don't use any D&D intellectual properties and base their product in what Wizards declared as open content in a separate document called Systems Reference Document, or SRD. This is a very summarized definition. For a better description, I point you towards the Alexandrian's article below. More than that, the OGL allows these creators, which we call third-party publishers, to make money off their work. If you ever backed a D&D Kickstarter or bought a non-official adventure or class in DriveThruRPG, you're most likely consuming D&D content that was created thanks to the OGL. The biggest example of this is the Pathfinder RPG, which we could say is D&D's #1 competitor nowadays. That game was created entirely through the OGL, and even though today the game differs a great deal from its SRD foundations, it is still a game made with the OGL. Section 4 of the OGL states it grants third-party publishers, and I quote, a perpetual, worldwide, royalty-free, non-exclusive license. This is important because a lot of people have built their careers on top of the OGL, which they thought was perpetual. Hell, Paizo published a whole game with it. This license was thought to be irrevocable. However, it seems that Wizards is trying to change the rules of the game. With the next edition of Dungeons & Dragons, called 1D&D for now, Wizards will publish a new game license which they are calling the OGL 1.1. This license hasn't been released officially yet, but leaks have already surfaced. If you want more information about these new OGL, there are links down below in the Underdark to Indestructoboy's channel and to Gizmodo.com, but here's a quick summary. First, the new OGL allegedly states that Wizards has the right to cancel or change it anytime they want, with just 30 days worth of notice. This basically kills all D&D Kickstarters because no creator will risk running a months-long campaign if Wizards can change the nature of the license midway. It also seems to suggest that, unlike the original OGL, Wizards can take ownership of any work published under the OGL 1.1, so if they like your stuff a lot, they can just take it and sell it themselves. Imagine being an independent designer for years, only for Wizards to nullify all your work in 30 days without needing to justify it whatsoever, or worse, just taking it over. Unlike the original OGL, agreeing with the new license will also require you to register with Wizards of the Coast any product intended for monetization. If your products make more than $50,000 yearly, you'll have to go one step further and report all your earnings. And if you exceed $750,000, you owe them a royalty fee of 25% over any earnings over that threshold. And note, this does not mean profit, it's gross revenue. Meaning, for example, if you publish a printed book that earns you $1 million but costs you $900,000 to publish, for a total of $100,000 in profit, that means that Wizards will charge you an additional 25% over the exceeding $250,000. From a project that amasses $1 million, Wizards will actually make more money out of it than you, who had all the work. This is less money that will be used to hire artists and designers and testers and so on. There's a lot of bad stuff going on with this license, but I'm not going to explain it all here. Again, links down below to Gizmodo, where much of this information comes from, and to Indestructoboy, who is a third-party publisher and can give you a much more insightful take on all of this. There's just one particular crime in this license that I want to discuss a bit more. Wizards is attempting to revoke the old OGL, the better one, as soon as this new one comes out. This means that no one will be able to publish anything else with the previous one, and it's uncertain what's going to happen with everything already published. Your options are to sign the new one or beat it. I cannot emphasize how destructive this is for the creative community in general. There are people who build careers around this, companies which can go bankrupt. This is essentially changing the rules of the game in the middle of it and is not correct. Now, there are a lot of people who are questioning the legality of all of this. Some say that you can still publish a lot of things without the OGL. Some say that you can still publish things for 5th edition with the old OGL. Some even say that it is impossible for Wizards to revoke the old OGL because it is irrevocable. But all evidence suggests that Wizards may have a strong case in court if it comes to that. On January 5th, Noah Downs, aka MyLawyerFriend, pointed out that a perpetual license is when, and I quote, a license does not have an inherent expiration date. It can still be terminated or revoked. There's a link in the Underdark to his post as well. I highly recommend it. It's very informative and comes from someone whose background is IP law. With this in mind, I went to revisit the original OGL and noticed that Section 9 reads, and I quote, Wizards may publish updated versions of this license. You may use any authorized version of this license to copy, modify, and distribute any open game content. According to the Gizmodo article, the new license will render all previous editions of the OGL unauthorized. Do you see how they're pulling this off? We thought the OGL was irrevocable, and no new license that Wizards could redact, like what happened with the GSL in 4E, could change that. However, they are using Section 9 of the OGL to create an updated version which can render all previous licenses obsolete by tagging them as unauthorized. All the people who have been complaining about it being called open license despite not being open at all, this is why. They are passing it as an update in order to revoke OGL 1.0a through its own Section 9. This will not only force people to use the new OGL with 1D&D, but also prevent new content to keep feeding 5th edition unless you agree to the new terms. Now, up to this point, this video was basically news. This is where my actual content begins. I'd like to bring back a post from Wizards on December 21st. On that post, you can read, "We want to provide transparency to how D&D will continue supporting third-party creators." We just learned that the new OGL was supposed to go live January 4th. It came with a contract, and Wizards would only give 7 mere business days for people to sign it. And this includes companies like Paizo, which would need a 360 overall. Plus, the information that we got was only made public due to a leak. Everything is still being heavily shielded by NDAs. How is this transparent? Wizards' post also says that the OGL update was meant to keep allowing third-party creators to do their stuff while preventing NFTs and larger businesses from exploiting their intellectual property. NFTs? Really? NFTs have been falling since January 2022. What's the danger there? And how does limiting third-party creators more than ever, imposing royalty fees and mandatory reporting on them, and stating that they can shut down their entire careers with only 30 days notice is supposed to keep things just like they were with the old OGL. They even guarantee the OGL is not going away, but what is being presented to us is a radically different license, masquerading as the good old OGL so that Section 9 can be activated and this new license can pass as an update rather than its own thing. The problem is, I feel like this is just the icing on the cake of deception and dishonesty that Wizards has been baking us for months now. I don't like to use such evocative language, but Wizards is crossing a very important line in morals. Their PR department is fighting like hell to make every single news about 1D&D sound like a bed of roses while hiding the snakes under the bush. Most of their statements are so dubious, vague, or misleading to hide their true plans and purposes while making everything sound harmless that I don't know what to trust anymore. I mean, pointing NFTs as the BBEG to capitalize on public distrust and distract us from all the changes to the OGL? Really? I think we need to remember that Wizards is a publicly traded company whose goal is to make money. They don't owe us anything. Not an OGL, not a third-party creator-friendly environment. They could have just said that with 1D&D they'd publish a more restrictive license that did exactly what the OGL 1.1 will do, and we would just have to accept that. At least they'd be honest with it. We would just have to let our wallet do the talking and stop buying D&D products if we truly disagree with the direction of the game. Instead, They are taking what we already had for free and charging us for it, with an added set of draconic conditions that prevent anyone from creating D&D content sustainably, while proudly stating that they're our biggest friends. Not only are they crossing many ethical principles here, especially when we consider that some people's whole careers and companies will be left for dead, but on top of that, Wizards is employing this complex misdirection operation to heavily limit what the OGL gave us without raising the public's rightful concern. They are taking away what we hold so dearly while still posing as the good guys. It's dishonest. And I understand that this is heavy and very accusatory language, but I don't know how else to put it. I know a lot of people have been accusing video creators of fearmongering. I can assure you that is not the case here. My intention is not to spread fear, but to discuss actual concerns in the spirit of free speech, like adults, to raise awareness to this issue and to call you to action. More on that later. It actually made me sad to see so many content creators accusing their own colleagues without giving them the benefit of the doubt, especially when the sources of those so-called fear-mongering creators proved to be true, confirming we were right all along to be worried. Those creators actually deserve an apology. But even though many of those accusations say that these opinions are unfounded since the game and the new OGL haven't been released yet, which is true, we have more than enough evidence to make us at least concerned about the future of the game. And there is nothing wrong with voicing those concerns if that is made in a civil and honest manner. There is a difference between fearmongering, shaming, and gatekeeping, and being critical about stuff we deeply care about and discuss it with like-minded friends, especially when this concerns the lives and careers of so many people. This is a game we all love, and the future is worrying. We have the right to be worried about it. Regardless of whether 1D&D ends up being a great game or not, I think that it will be catastrophically poorer without its third-party creator community. This is not the time to burn bridges and divide ourselves. This is the time where we as a community must band together and voice our hearts to keep this game we love so much open and friendly for everyone. So, what has the future of OGL waiting for us? Honestly, I think Wizards is going to win. I don't see how anyone could dispute the legality of this new OGL based on what I know, though bear in mind I'm no expert on the matter. To me, I only see 3 scenarios where Wizards may eventually turn back on this decision. The first is through a court battle between them and everyone that's going to be hurt by this new OGL, in a charge probably led by Paizo because of Pathfinder. I can't forecast the result of that battle, but I'm not sure that Wizards would lose. They used the OGL's own clauses against itself. The second scenario is more far-fetched, but also the more powerful one. We didn't hear what the stance of Critical Role is yet. A lot of people have been accusing Critical Role of being in bed with Wizards and well-positioned for a custom deal that granted special conditions, but I think that's unfair. I admit the fact that they published the Wildmount setting with Wizards may complicate things, but everything I know about Matthew Mercer tells me he's extremely fond of the creator community, having been part of it himself. Critical Role is D&D's biggest influencer right now, but they got so big that I believe they don't need D&D anymore. People go see them because of the story and the cost, not because it's D&D. If they threaten to release their own RPG aside from the OGL and become the main competition of Wizards of the Coast, that could be a serious threat that would not be easily overlooked. I'm not sure if Wizards wouldn't go back should Critical Role protest. They are yet to make a public statement about this, but they, alongside other prominent voices in the community, could be our saviors. The final scenario is arguably the worst best case scenario, but also the one where we have a bigger way in. If the public outcry is so loud and outrageous and attracts them such a bad wave of PR, maybe they eventually decide to turn back. I don't believe this would make them go completely back to the old OGL. Most likely they will issue a new version that is much more friendly in some terms, but still take away some liberties. If this happens, I don't think we have any choice but to accept, but it's a much better option than what we have right now. And that is kind of the main message of this whole video. It is vital that everyone tries to speak out and change Wizards' mind. Nerd Immersion has made popular the hashtag OpenDND. I encourage everyone to follow him, hop on Twitter or any other social media, and write your own thoughts about this with the hashtag OpenDND. It's a long shot, but maybe it will call Wizards to their senses. Even if you don't play D&D, even if you don't consume third-party content, even if you think this won't affect you and has nothing to do with you, consider that all this legal maneuvering is just so that they can charge us for something we already had for free and has the potential to ruin many people's careers and even whole companies. If you agree this is not correct, #OpenDND. I'm not afraid for the continuity of the game. I know that D&D will continue no matter what. If this game has survived the Satanic Panic, it will survive this crisis as well. I just thought that maybe if people didn't like 1D&D and decided to keep playing 5th edition, they would still have the whole creator community behind them continuously feeding the game with new content. The fact that they're killing this makes me wonder if this is not part of a plan to force people into shifting to 1D&D. And if that is true, I'm not sure I want to play it. In the past, D&D has already switched between open game licenses and more restrictive ones. When that happened between 3rd edition and 4th edition, it was known that the stance of Wizards of the Coast at the time was, we don't care how many fans we lose right now, as long as we gain more in the long run. This might happen again, and we have no way to fight it. Wizards will win. Except, maybe, if we speak up. So share the news, share the hashtag, make sure everyone in the community is aware of what is happening and what's at stake. I'm sorry for the long video. This was not supposed to be a news video, but more just me expressing my own opinions and venting out my concerns, and most of all, raising awareness to this issue, because I'm really convinced that a big part of the community isn't aware of what's happening. I hope this was not too ranty. I'm just, very worried. In any case, I thank you for watching. I hope sincerely that this was useful to you in any way, and I hope that the future is not as grim as I am painting it. I'm the first Arcadian. I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, #OpenDND.